Hi everyone, back today with another video. This is another one of those gold routines videos, so if that's not something you're into, feel free to skip this one. I just try to show people regularly how I'm making gold consistently. I don't want this to be one of those channels where I tell you something makes gold and then kind of disappear into the wind and never actually prove it to you. So I'm just showing you a couple of things I do every so often. I'll record one of these videos, show you what I'm doing at the moment to make gold. Feel free to copy it, feel free to ignore it. Feel free to do just parts of it. So, what I've been doing the last couple of days, I've been averaging around 30,000 gold a day. I'm giving, and that's with about an hour of work. So that's it's not as lucrative as it used to be. At the moment, it's getting a bit harder to sell items on the auction house, and we're starting to get some competition back. So there's a couple of people I think preparing for the big surge. I'm pretty sure we're going to get, but also that means that we're competing against those people to make profit. The bulk of my regular and consistent gold is still coming from the tailoring gear, the pioneer gear, the PvP gear, and the profession equipment. So that's where the bulk of that is coming from, and also enchants. But I'm noticing that they come in waves, so they do sell throughout the day. But there is like a couple of points throughout the day where they sell very quickly. And if you can find what time that is, I haven't found like a consistent time. I know it's in the morning and in the evening and weekends are just a completely different beast. But on weekdays in the morning and in the evening, those enchants sell really quickly. And you can see here, I show you, I do this twice today, and both times I make between 12,000 and 16,000 gold with the enchants, relisting the enchants. But the competition on the enchants are just so much higher. The tailoring things are pretty much you list them and you maybe check them once a day to make sure you're at the front of the line and you sell stuff. But on average, I think I'm making 5 to 7,000 a day on my tailoring stuff, and it's a lot more passive. So it really depends on what you prefer there. It's a lot more passive. I list it, I go away, I come back, it's sold. Hooray! But with the enchanting stuff, I make a lot of gold there, but I really have to work for it. So you've probably watched my video on sitting on the auction house, and I do this in small intervals because I just can't do it forever. I'll go away from the laptop and come back and load it and make a coffee or have a conversation or make phone calls or things like that. So I've been doing that, but I've also found that in between pretty much competing for the number one spot on the auction house with the enchants, running that follower dungeon, the Dark Flame Cleft, the follower dungeon for cloth, because cloth is still pretty steady. It's not selling for as much as it used to, but it is always selling. And I'm starting to build up my Weaver cloth bolts in preparation for season two. I'm selling the actual cloths because it's cheaper to buy the bolt than it is to turn the cloths into bolt. You lose money, so I'll buy the bolts if I have to. I'm just selling the raw cloths as they are. But I'm running one or two of the first room of the Dark Flame Cleft while I'm doing the auction house listing, the competing to be number one. And that's just giving me a bit of a break from sitting here doing it. But also it allows me to have other things to list on the auction house. It wouldn't be my item of choice. I like the Dark Flame Cleft follower dungeon because it gives me the ability to join it from anywhere. I can stand in front of the auction house and join it. But if I had the auction house mount, which I don't have, I really wish I had it. I'm so jealous of everybody who does. But if I had the auction house mount, I would be spending this time collecting the dirt piles because I think there's more value there long term going into season two than there is with the Weaver Cloth Farm. It is steady and it is easy, but there's more gold to be made with those dirt piles, I think. So if you've got the auction house mount and the ability to check the auction house just wherever you are, I would encourage you to consider the dirt pile farming instead of the follower dungeon. So you can see it's really easy doing this here. The follower dungeon is an instant queue. I have found that regular dungeons at the moment, just with pugs, are almost impossible to get into, even as a healer. Even when it's got those bags where it wants you to sign up and you get a special bag for doing it, they're giving those bags out to DPS now. So I tried queuing for one of those today to see if I could do that kind of in between the auction house listings, but it took forever. Even as a healer, it didn't even go through. I think I was in the queue for something like 20 minutes and it never popped. I even went away and came back and I was still in the queue. It never went off. So that's probably the first time ever. And I think it has something to do with it being the end of the season and people doing Plunder Storm. But that's probably the first time ever I haven't got a dungeon queue as a healer in less than 5 minutes. So that was a bit of a surprise to me. And then I gave up. So I didn't do it. But I think if you can get into those dungeons with the bags, there's gold to be made there, especially if you hold on to it until season 2 when the new raid opens. I think people will go and buy a lot of those runes. So I think there's a lot of gold to be there if you can do that and actually get into the dungeon. But make sure you pick up the quests at the same time, the weekly quests, because there's one for a dungeon. You might be lucky enough to pick that up on randoms, but there's also one for time walking dungeons, and it just gives you a little bit extra gold for having done the thing. So just make sure you're looking to make sure you're doing everything you can to make as much gold possible with the thing you are doing. If there is overlap, if there is a quest, if there's something you can collect while you're doing it, just make sure you're making the most out of it so you maximize the time you're spending and the gold you can make while you're doing it. I have started to spend a lot of my gold. You've probably noticed it hasn't gone up as much as it normally does. And that's because I'm buying things in preparation for the next season. So if you've watched my other videos, you've seen the inside of my Regent bank, and I'm just hoarding stuff in there. Basically, there's pretty close to 500,000 gold in items in there. I think pretty close. But what I'm also doing is buying out the recipes for my enchanter and my tailor. So I'm logging into the auction house and monitoring how much the recipes are there. And if I don't have them and I think they're reasonable, I purchase them. So I encourage you to do research there. Don't just purchase them because you have them. Also have a look at how much the over a couple of days, not on the day you're looking at it, how much the enchant itself is selling for. How long is it going to take you to make back the gold you spent buying it? So I bought the Oathsworn recipe for 75,000 gold, and I've paid it off now because the gold level enchants sell anywhere between 3,000 and 4,000 gold, but also the silvers, and they make gold. It's a smaller amount, but the silver versions make gold as well without the concentration. It's just a lot more competitive to get yours to the front of the line. So I figured out how many I had to sell to make back the money I spent there in preparation for season 2. So going forward, it's profit. But just so you know in advance, I also decided to do a quest today. There was just one on the Isle of Dawn for gold. And I did it in war mode because you get 10% extra. It was really easy. It took me less than 5 minutes. I also managed to get a public order. There are much less of those at the moment. I think there are lots of people kind of hoarding their fractured sparks. So I think that's what's happening there. I know I'm hoarding them because I want to use them for the gilded crests when I have the ability to get them through delves. And I'm sure there's people like that, or people waiting for the newer crests that are going to come out with the new raid, just holding on to their things in preparation to make the most out of those first few crests. So I think there's going to be a big boom in season 2. I know that it's pretty much died off now. Not completely. Still making 10 to 15,000 gold a week on these filling these public orders, but you've just got to get lucky when you're on, really. There's a lot of competition for them. People are giving really lame tips now. You do occasionally get lucky, then somebody will put in a reasonable tip, but there are other people who just list crests. They want you to fill the enchanting crest for 100 gold. Those people, what I do there, sometimes somebody lists like 6 crests, and they want them all filled for 100 gold. I message that person, I whisper them, and I say, send it to me as a public order, as a private order, because I only get four public orders a day, and I don't want to fill them using on a 100 gold order. So, and that does work, whispering that person and saying, can you send it to me? I'll fill them. Those people do that. I've had a lot of success doing that. So don't be afraid to whisper the people who are putting up the orders to see if they'll send it to you, so you're not using your public orders that way. So since this morning, I've logged on twice. I think I did this for about an hour and a half now. Some of that was I botched a recording and had to do it again. So that was fun. But I've made about 28,000 gold, almost 29,000 gold today. And I did buy some things. I bought some tinder boxes. I bought some storm dust. I bought a couple of things. Just when they're cheap, I don't ignore them. If they go below a certain price, I'm buying them at the moment. So that's why that hasn't gone up as much. I think without those purchases, it would have been somewhere closer to 40,000 gold for today. But I think spending the gold now to hold something for season two, especially if you've got a backup plan for if it flops, basically, having stuff you can hold for season two is the way to go. It's spend money now, make money later. You know, the patience game. So that's just what I did today for gold making. If you have any questions or any thoughts about anything I could have done more efficiently, or just questions about why I'm doing something the way I am, if I haven't explained it properly, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you found this helpful or enjoyable. It's free for you and super helpful for me. Lets the YouTube algorithm know who else might enjoy these kinds of videos. I know they're not overly exciting, these kinds of videos, but they are steady. And gold making isn't always glamorous, but if you were to make 28,000 gold a day, like I did today, you would have 860,000 gold a month, which is more than enough to cover your subscription. So it's just up to you what you want to do with that. I think consistent gold making isn't always glamorous. Every now and again, you get a pet. There is one at the moment. If you've watched my other video, every now and again you get a pet and it sells for a good chunk of money. But those things are far and few in between, and convincing somebody to buy those can take time. This way, I am affording my subscription every month with extra. I'm going to use the extra to pay for my expansion when it comes out. That's my next goal, my big goal. Also, that mount if it ever comes back, because I'm not missing it again. So clicky on that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also consider checking out my membership options. If you're interested in that, one of the tiers gets you the videos 3 days early. And when it comes to gold making, 3 days early can make a really massive difference, especially with world events and pets and things, new releases, especially with season 2 coming out. Some gold making opportunities are going to be incredibly lucrative for a very short amount of time. You've really got to be the first couple of people doing something to make the big, amazing amounts of profit from it. So consider joining that if you haven't already. And thank you to all of the people who already have. So I just want to do a special shout out to Heretic666 and Hallowed Be Thy Game, the first 2 subscribers to my membership group. Thank you so much for joining Mini Goblins. You guys are amazing. It hasn't even been open for 24 hours, and it's really great to have your support already. So thank you so much. So that's all for this video. I'm just showing my bug mount. It took so much work. This Glory of the Devil mount took so much work. I'm just really happy it's over. If you're interested in that, go check out the other videos on how I did that. But that's all for today's video. Hopefully you found something helpful here. And as always, remember, girls don't play WoW.